led to an arrest. This has created a racially charged firestorm with
New plans for white nationalist rallies on college campuses.
The first Sunday of the football season.
An unarmed black man shot and killed.
You can feel the tension getting greater and greater.
I'm building a wall, okay?
It is the fallout from his Oval Office slur about immigrants that still has
showing up in New Jersey aimed at 2 Americans of Chinese and Indian descent.
Even 10 years ago, I didn't have some of the concerns and fears.
Please give us justice!
I didn't hear some of the ugliness that I hear today.
A candidate for mayor labeled a terrorist on a leaflet.
This is America. I am American, born and raised.
The video was my response to a driver who almost hit me as I was in a crosswalk on a green light in Center City, Philadelphia. The driver and I exchanged words about who had the right of way.
Then she proceeded to drive off, but as she drove away, she yelled out her window, "This is America."
Those 3 words suggested to me that somehow the driver did not see me as an American. And after a lifetime of letting similar comments just roll off my back, go unaddressed and unquestioned, something in me snapped.
Lady, I have been an American journalist for 20 plus years. I have seen Americans suffer and grieve. I have seen Americans rejoice and show resilience. So I know this is America. You do not have to tell me that.
This is certainly white privilege with the whitest kind of rude and disconnected answer you could expect.
Your video showed how all minorities feel in any experience like that.
You see this face and you think this face belongs to an outsider or a foreigner?
I need to show your video to my 13-year-old Asian American daughter.
I, too, am a woman of Asian descent, born and raised in America, but I've often been made to feel like a foreigner.
I have 2 kids. They have this same face, especially my daughter. She's a carbon copy of me.
Because he has the genes of his dad. He was called a terrorist. Why is my son not as American as your son or as your daughter?
I don't ever want my daughter to hear that, to feel that, to go through that experience.
I am Asian American and I am strong and I am proud.
The Facebook video gave all Americans an opportunity to share their own diverse, painful experiences.
He told me, he was like, turn that spick music down.
She turned around, looked at me and said, terrorists.
I've been told absolutely, go back to Africa or go back to your island.
And it is my diversity, my color, my culture, and all of the things that come with it that have helped me contribute to my country. And so I'm taking ownership of those words you hurled out of your window to me on Friday. This is America.
This was a real awakening for me. I mean, I never expected this to go viral.
Hello from Toronto, Canada. So sorry to hear you experience this.
To many of us, this is nothing new. Sometimes it's loud and ugly. Sometimes it's neatly packaged and polite. Stay woke.
I teach at the most diverse high school in the country. I want to share your video with my students.
But not everyone liked my message or my approach.
We will always have a small percentage of the public who are ignorant. Ignore them so they may realize nobody cares about their hate.
And some disagreed with my interpretation of the driver's comment.
I don't take it as racist, but instead that she meant she's free to be an American, do as she pleases.
What makes me happy about this is it did spark discussion and it did fuel debate and it gave people a place to go to have this really important conversation. So this is not really about my incident, my video. This is about these people who commented. Many engaged with each other directly.
In 2000, 69% of Asian Americans were foreign-born, so it actually makes more sense for the driver to assume that a random Asian on the street is not from America.
Even a random Asian on the street deserves some degree of courtesy as a fellow human being. I highly doubt the driver would have felt the need to yell, "This is America," at a European tourist off the plane.
I'm not saying this is right, but the only way it will ever stop is if people separate and stay with their own kind.
But since I'm half black, half white, look Spanish, but have an Arabic name, which line should I get it?
I was most interested in getting to know the people who expressed a point of view different from my own. So you felt that you, as a white person, are a true American, and the only true American. That's how you felt.
That's how I felt. Yes. Come on.
My mission was to get people to step out of social media and really reveal themselves.
A lot of us can get behind the Facebook and get behind, other chat rooms and everything and kind of throw digs out there or give your 2 cents, but
if you feel the way you do...
Yeah, but see, when you talk about it, you really make a difference, I think, when you talk to the person.
And when we did, there were surprises. Some people thought you were racist on Facebook.
Yeah,
that
that's right.
couldn't be further from the truth.
Exactly. That was the mistake I made, explaining it that way.
There are no rules, except I just want you to keep it real. I want you to be brutally honest. We asked students to share their thoughts on race.
White people do have an advantage in this country.
And their feelings on the impact of race and our history.
Slavery happened so long ago. People still hate whites for things that have happened back then. And I don't think that's fair.
And it's not your fault for what your ancestors did. But it's just like, I just don't think it should be forgotten.
The conversation is not always easy.
I think it all comes back.
It all came back when you saw the video. I'm sorry, I feel like you just need a hug. But it does bring those of us who were part of it just a little bit closer.
This whole conversation, something like a once-in-a-lifetime moment.
I'm me, not what you think I am.
To actually listen to each other and understand where we come from.
This is America.
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 Esto es Estados Unidos.
As she drove away, she yelled out her window, "This is America."
Hashtag
Shut up and get off your high.
Get over it, baby.
Hatred has no home here.
We're at a feverish pitch.
I am black and I got your back.
Shame on you. You made it about race.
We're always going for the jugular.
Mean and disrespectful.
Forgive the redneck.
You are so race baiting.
And that cultivates a certain kind of sensibility that can't be conducive to real conversation that's productive.
You have the audacity and the ignorance to yell at me that this is America?
The video was my expression of outrage.
It is Americans like us who make this country strong and who make this country exceptional.
Even if you emote, even if you vent, you want to give folks a chance to let you listen too.
So I sought out many of the more than 15,000 people who commented, in hopes of having a real conversation.
I think if they trust that you hear them and that you understand them, even if you all still don't agree, at least the conversation can continue and you can see what the points of convergence are.
You are fortunate you're in a position to highlight this hateful treatment. To many of us, this is nothing new. Caucasian Americans want too much explanation for why we're here and why we consider ourselves Americans.
You feel like they're requiring, demanding an explanation?
Yeah. Like somehow I have to be a super patriot to qualify as an American.
I know my U.S. history. I can name every cabinet member. I can name every state capital. Can you?
Do you ever feel like saying, no one is more American than I am, considering I'm Native American?
But that would exclude you. I don't want to do that. I have 3 grandchildren I'm hoping won't go through an experience. Someone yelling at them This is America.
I have this concern about the charge of racism. In 2000, 69% of Asian Americans were foreign-born, so it actually makes more sense for the driver to assume that a random Asian on the street is not from America. You could put it on a gravestone, 1776 to 2008.
The driver was clearly trying to make Nydia feel marginalized and othered. I responded to Jonathan Farley's comment because I'm just sick of people trying to justify acts of racism rather than just empathize with the person who's a victim of it.
A reasonable person could make the assumption that a random Asian they see in America is not from here, and not being from here is not necessarily a bad thing. I am actually quite proud that my parents came from the West Indies, and I was born and raised in America, but I never viewed myself as really being American.
If I'm not accepted as an American, then why would I invest and contribute and in some cases fight for my country?
In the case of Asian Americans, the model minority, I know that some Asians complain about that status. I would love for blacks to have that status.
A candidate for mayor labeled a terrorist.
Certainly Asian Americans have faced racism and continue to face racism today.
And vile flyer showing up in New Jersey aimed at 2 Americans of Chinese and Indian descent.
I haven't looked at that story, but yes, obviously I would agree that that's bad if people who are Americans are called invaders or something like that.
Does it change your view at all about your reaction to my video?
I'm extremely stubborn, so I would say no, because my initial comment was simply a factual comment. According to the 2000 census, 69% of Asians in America were foreign-born.
This is the fact. Just because you're foreign-born doesn't necessarily mean you're not American. Many Americans were born in another country.
White people think America is their country
How
when they
ignorant white
stole
America
it.
can be. They're white. They're privileged.
You wrote in response to my video, explain how that was privileged behavior, and what if the person wasn't white? Do you retract your comment or not?
Wow, what a jerk I was.
I did not say you were a jerk. I just wanted to know what you meant by that comment.
I was just so defensive, and I know a lot of white people feel that way. They just feel that they have to defend something, and deep down, a lot of people, I think, are just afraid that they're going to lose something.
To us, to people who don't look like them, who are American.
Right, just that fear of what am I going to lose out of it, you know, someone going to take my job, you know, am I going to be labeled a certain way? It all stemmed from, you know, things happening around me, the election.
You felt like white people were under attack, especially after the election?
Yes.
We need to continue to engage our own fear. So I do think one of the things we don't spend enough time on is understanding how and why people are motivated to do the stuff they do.
You were surprised when I reached out to you.
Yeah, and when I had to look in the mirror, I didn't like what I saw.
Wayne says he hadn't watched my entire video before commenting.
When I went back and watched the whole video, it was like, you know, eating crow at that time. I was like, there I go. I was just quick to defend and get mad and start ranting. I figured, you know what, why don't I hang out with someone of the opposite race?
He accepted an invitation to play in an all-black fantasy football league.
That was the best thing I could have ever done. You see a whole different side of things. Not every, you know, non-white person hates Donald Trump, and not every non-white person is, you know, a Democrat or Republican. Like, everyone is different. I had to forget everything I learned.
And the more we can see that there are more connections, even in our difference, the more we'll recognize that the key is to be as expansive and as inclusive as we can be.
I was one of those easily offended white people. As soon as I just started listening to other people, getting in their conversations, not debating, but just meeting common ground, is when I just started seeing a whole lot of things different.
To me, racism is actually a type of bullying. People use racism, bigotry, to make themselves feel powerful. I'm not saying this is right, but the only way it will ever stop is if people separate and stay with their own kind.
But since I'm half black, half white, look Spanish, but have an Arabic name, which line should I get it?
When you read Mike's response, how does that make you feel?
Insulted and sad to know that people think that's the only solution, is to separate ourselves.
It wasn't meant to be exclusive. It was meant to just explain what I thought racism was.
Your dad's black and your
Yeah,
mom's
my dad's
white.
black, mom's white. I grew up in mostly white neighborhoods. Who am I supposed to identify with? Where should I go? Which group do you want me to be with? Because one of those groups is going to say you don't belong here.
I was trying to say that racism exists because people come together, groups come together, they clash. Separate them, you have no problem. You know, if kids are fighting in the schoolyard, keep them apart, they're not going to fight.
Racism as a child, I learned at an early age. I was the only grandchild that didn't have their picture hanging on the wall. I'm worried for my daughter. That's my biggest fear. What is she stepping into? She's 19. She's just starting out her life. Some people think sheltering their kid is the way to go. I think you got to educate them.
Good parenting can help.
You have that hope.
Yeah, I think we all, it's part of being American, we hope things get better.
If we look at our own social networks, they're often so incredibly non-diverse. We don't have real substantive relationship with folks whose Thanksgiving tables look very different from ours. The lie is that there is a them, right? It's all we have is us.
This is America.
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 We are all more alike than I think we realize. So why did you guys have the Asian girls speak at your Black History Month assembly?
We never are just Black Lives Matter. It's like Asian lives matter. Like all of these lives matter.
I have seen America at its best and at its worst. You have the audacity and the ignorance to yell at me that this is America?
The video was my response to a driver who almost hit me as I was in a crosswalk on a green light in Center City, Philadelphia.
Did you think that this face would not stand up against you, against racism, and against ignorance? Well, you were wrong.
I just thought your video just made so much sense and just showed what we go through. It's not just us. I feel like a lot of Asian, Indian, Hispanics are really misrepresented because everybody sees black and white.
When we all stand together as one, the more powerful the message is going to be.
In 2016, minorities made up 40% of America, yet you'd have never known by watching movies. The latest Hollywood Diversity Report examining the top 200 films from that same year shows Asians claimed only 3.1% of movie roles, Latinos 2.7%, and Native Americans just 0.5%.
There's that saying bloom where you're planted, right? But a lot of children of color that we've interviewed feel almost like weeds in some way because they've never seen their stories and faces and reflected in media. Have you had any encounters with racism?
Priya Volchi and Winona Guo are recent graduates of Princeton High School in New Jersey.
Is there any story that you'd like to share about race and culture?
They've written a textbook about race.
We want every single K through 12 classroom in the United States to be engaging in these meaningful conversations.
It was inspired by the teens' own experiences.
Neither of you felt American growing up.
Yeah, we didn't. And as we've interviewed people from ages maybe 6 to 18, it's been a common thread.
I have 2 kids. They have this same face, especially my daughter. She's a carbon copy of me.
I hope all of our kids have a better experience.
And if you see her on the street, and if you say anything to her to suggest that she does not belong in this country, I challenge you to think again. I am Asian American, and I am strong, and I am proud, and I am speaking out against you today.
Back at Benjamin Rush, after my This Is America video went viral, students in Mr. Katz's African American history class created their own powerful videos about race and being an American.
I feel like we shouldn't continue to exclude people that are oppressed minorities.
My race is represented more than back when I was in high school.
African Americans, I would say, are probably the second best represented group in the United States.
Going to Rush is different because my last school wasn't as inclusive as this one is.
Schools and social media are very connected when it comes to talking about
what it means to be a certain race.
And together, the students and I delved into a discussion about those difficult issues.
This is not a conversation you guys normally have.
No, we never.
There are no judgments being made here today. There are no wrong answers. There are no right answers. I want you to be brutally honest.
And honest they were.
Why do you hate me so much? Where are you coming from? Why is it that you think of me like this?
They look at my skin color and maybe assume the worst about how I can't steal or hurt somebody.
People are gonna call me racist, people are gonna call me cracker. You just deal with it.
I am Hispanic, one half Puerto Rican and one half Colombian.
Isaiah Vargas says people often assume he's Caucasian.
I don't know how that makes me feel. Well, on one hand, should I feel bad because I haven't been discriminated against, or should I feel good because I've been having all these privileges for not looking Hispanic?
I'm the only darker skinned Puerto Rican, and I realize that I just have had a different experience than a lot of these people.
Danae Riley is half Korean and half black.
They think that I don't really belong here. I was born here, and I'm just as American as they are.
Racism isn't natural. You're not born racist. You don't give birth to a child who just happens to hate another skin tone.
You have self-hate in your heart, then you're going to hate others.
Children starting from the ages of 3 to 4 show signs of prejudice and stereotyping. They're already learning from the narratives around them. That's part of the reason why our focus is education.
I grew up in a really homogenous white town, and I thought especially growing up in Princeton, you would have had a different experience.
You grew up in Princeton, it's diverse, but diversity doesn't always mean inclusion.
All teachers of 11th and 12th grade students.
At Benjamin Rush, even between good friends Abria Terrell and Chastity Duffin, differences in skin tone lead to different experiences and conflicting points of view.
It's not your fault for what your ancestors did. I just don't think it should be forgotten.
I do not think slavery should be forgotten at all.
It's a ripple effect. I don't know where I'm from. I don't know where my ancestors are from. I know that I'm African American, and that's about it.
Somebody could be born at this very moment, and a black person or a Rican or anybody will hate them and say, you caused this, you did this, and that's not fair.
You kind of have to realize that white people do have an advantage in this country. They have a voice that is much bigger than anybody else's.
Not every white person is privileged. I live in Mayfair. I don't live in the quote-unquote rich neighborhood.
I think there is this idea that if you're white, racism does not impact you.
It does. It does so much. People always say white people are racist. They are this, they are that. Every race can be racist in their own way.
That's lesson number 3.
Growing up, I was given skin bleaching products because just dark-skinned girls weren't an image in media that was celebrated. We had to address the anti-blackness in our own families, but at the same time acknowledge that our parents are immigrants and have their own experiences that need to be validated as well.
I never said, but it seems like a lot of you made the assumption. What is your assumption?
White.
If you're basing something on someone's skin color, isn't that in and of itself racist?
I didn't even know that I made assumptions of people.
Yeah, I didn't realize it either.
I mean, it's kind of ironic, but I'm not gonna lie, I thought that the person was white.
Perhaps what matters is this.
It made me think, it really did.
You think maybe you'll pause now before you make an assumption?
I feel like this helped all of us. I feel like it brought us closer, all of us, listening to each other, understanding, explaining what we meant and stuff like that.
It also makes me feel good that I'm not the only one and that we all have some of the same things to work on, so that maybe I can lean on to my friends to help me.
Chastity and Abria agree to lean on each other.
I feel like if we all voice our opinions all the time and then made people feel comfortable enough to voice theirs, then I feel like something really big could help us.
could make serious progress.
Yeah.
You think it's worth it to try?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that we all have a voice, and it's up to us to say what we feel, what we believe in.
Okay, so then we write a proposal.
To equip all of us with the tools to do that, Priya and Winona are working on their second book. This one for grown-ups too.
We all have to take this journey of racial literacy. We all have to come to better understandings of who we are and how culture, how race, how injustice impacts our relationships with everyday people.
Right after graduating from high school, they traveled across the country to collect more than 500 stories from people ages 5 to 105.
Part of our work has been reclaiming that title of American, and it's kind of a journey of perpetual learning.
At the end of the day, it all starts with yourself.
Back at Benjamin Rush, the conversation and the calls to action continue as well.
Stop thinking every Hispanic is a crack dealer. Stop thinking that every black person is going to rob you. Stop thinking that every Puerto Rican is crazy.
This is America. I am American.
See people for who they are.
This is America.
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 This is America. Esto es Estados Unidos.